Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Cosmic Ascension Waves of Light with myself, Soma ARah. And this evening we have a divine guest, Shakara Tosha or Tosha.
Sha.
Shah, Tosha.
Mhm.
And today's date is the 11th of February, and it is 7 p.m. here in Ireland. Um, Shakara Tosha is an multidimensional star being messenger, ascension guide, master teacher, light language speaker, and artist who offers practical wisdom, understanding, and useful activation tools for holistic living during these changing times. She has received many messages from a wide range of star being guides that she channels to assist humanity in living more holistically and raising their vibration during our energetically shifting ascension times. She is she's an intuitive energy reader who is deeply connected to the cosmic ascended and elemental realms and is a spiritual wayshower, a light worker, and a creator with light. She's a cosmic energetic guide in resonance with diverse frequencies and dimensional realities. So, with that said, Shakara, I have lots of questions for you. So, can we, so welcome. Would you like to do a little introduction?
Sure, if you'd like. I really appreciate this opportunity. It's so wonderful to connect with you. When you reached out to me, I felt like I knew you. I think this is what's happening during this time. Everybody is finding each other again, probably from other lifetimes or other star systems. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I don't want to get into the story too much, but I think in context, it's helpful for people. So I've been doing what they call light language and star language all my life. I'm an artist, and my mom was an artist, and I started painting codes, symbols, and all that in all my work, all my life, and writing poetry and performance, very multimedia. And then about 10 years ago,
Can I just ask, because
yes,
that was those were a few of my questions. So,
uh-huh, sure.
um, so how did you get your name?
Okay, well, that's sort of the next step. We're totally in sync. So I was given um, a spirit name by Chief Gold Night Eagle, which I was going to mention. I was in New York City with my daughter, lived there for 35 years, project manager, very corporate artist, had my own business. And I started doing codes and came across these codes of this chief. Long story short, we met each other in California. My daughter and I moved out to Wisconsin, where he was at the time with his partner, and we were doing sweat lodges for, once a week for 4 years. I did very deep work with him, which I'm happy to share about later. But he and I immediately recognized each other as brother and sister. And he knew the work that I was doing. And anyway, so at one of the ceremonies we did, he gave me a spirit name, which is Wichakpe Tosha Washtewi. That's Lakota for beautiful violet star woman. So that came in, and so I was using that, and my original birth name, and all of a sudden that was about 2014, maybe almost 10, 11 years ago. And then I've been traveling, and anyway, when I was about 5, maybe 6 years ago, 6, 7 years ago, I heard from these star guides that I want to share who they are and what happens here. But they said go by the name Shakara and use the name Tosha from the spirit name that the chief gave me. So Tosha means violet, or the violet ray, or that vibration. And he told me one of the reasons that name came in for him was because I'm connected to the violet flame, the violet ray, and a couple other things. But anyway, so that's the Tosha, and it looks like Tosha, but it's pronounced Tosha. The accent, like yours, is one of the interesting layered names. I call it layered. But when you say Tosha with the accent on the end, it's in Lakota, it's a vibration for a ceremonial color of violet. So anyway, so the star people said, use this name Shakara. I kept hearing it over and over for about a year or two. And they said, when you use the name, your whole frequency will change. The people will see you, they'll recognize you. The star people, there's something in the vibration of the name, which I'm sure I know with you too. So I said, no, it's weird. I don't really want to do that. And then anyway, I finally said, show me a sign. I was out in the middle of giant rock in the desert in California, where they're big, I believe them to be ancient whales, these rocks. And I walked, I don't know, half a mile way back. And I said, okay, give me a sign. And literally, I went online and nobody had ever used that word except one person that I knew, and referring to the Shekinah, which is the, the CAWL, the Jewish light, killer of light, whatever. She said, the Shakara. And I was like, that's interesting. So nobody, just came out of the blue, said, I went around the corner and somebody had spray painted behind the rock, Shakara. And I said, okay, I guess that's my sign. So anyway, that's where the name came from. But as soon as I did it, probably the same with you, you step into a different vibration. And that's really when the codes came through, when the work came through. So this was about 10 or 11 years ago. Anyway, long story very short, star people around that time when I was doing these ceremonies with the chief really started coming in. So I have seen, like you with the Pleiadians, I've seen, read a little bit on your site. Arcturians came when I was a child. I can explain all this stuff later. But anyway, all these guides around 10 years ago started coming in, and I started speaking star language, which I didn't know. So somebody said.
And where were you at the time?
So I was in Wisconsin, where I am now, this very small town, and I had seen one or two, three grandmothers that I'm connected with speaking light language, grandmothers speak or whatever, and I just spontaneously did it. But all these languages started coming out, like 20 different things, different vibrations, and then so the chief was listening to me speak and then also watching me do all these codes, and he knew I was putting something together even that I didn't even understand at the time. So often he would ask people to bring in messages in the sweat lodges, or he was doing the Star Knowledge Conference for many years. And so he encouraged me to get up and speak and bring in these channeled kind of, I don't really even call it channeled, I call it transmission, but the light language and then the message. And then I somehow at one of his conferences, he said, okay, stand up and speak for 40 minutes. Well, I'm an artist, so I put some slides behind me, some moving images, which create a tone, and then music. And I would say star language and the message, and star language and the message. And he was sitting at the back of the room going, yeah, that's it. So anyway, all these guides that I would love to share more about later are extremely diverse. And every single day for the last 10 years, literally, anywhere, low end 3 hours, high end 8 to 10 hours, I'm getting messages constantly. I write them on my phone, I type them, I dictate them, I draw them. I mean, it's massive stuff that's come in. And I'm not a writer. I was borderline dyslexic, and all of a sudden, so I traveled for 5 years all over the country, back and forth, speaking these conferences, doing home gatherings, left my house 10 years ago. I haven't had a house for 10 years, and totally like a wayfarer. I've been living very ascetic life to do this, going out on the land in the middle of nowhere, and all these messages were coming in. And then finally, about 5 years ago, I was told to compile them. So this is what I mentioned. All these books are coming out on, I don't know, 13 is a key number for me. So 13 topics, 13 groups of guides, and then all this other stuff that I'm now being shown to teach in addition to the session.
So there's like, I feel such a resonance with you. I feel like I know you, and it's funny because, well, it's not funny, but there's so many things that I've seen some of your other interviews and some of your website and some of the things you're saying, where we really do have a very strong connection. Some of the things would be Chief Golden Light Eagle and the 13, the 13, the 13, the 13 that is in my book, The Pleiadian Child, where they. So anyway, I don't want to talk about me, but we do have a very strong connection.
Yeah,
And
I'd love to hear more about that.
yeah, and so I have several questions for you.
Sure.
So
So that's just basically the background, but I wanted to
yeah,
share. And I
yeah,
really want to share the light language because I end up speaking light language sometimes more than English. So
okay.
any anytime that feels fine, or we can do questions or however you want
Yeah,
to do.
what would you like to do first? Because I have a feeling that this is, and I can feel Golden Light Eagle
Yeah,
here. I can
yeah,
feel him. I've channeled him before for Jennifer Berryhill.
yeah.
So and I would have had past life memories as a child of having been in Lakota
Mhm,
and being connected to the to natives.
mhm.
And there's other resonance there. I really feel like I know you, and it's just um you were talking about something earlier, and I felt like I was going to start crying. Just the energy of of the times we're in now, and
Yeah,
how we're all coming together and connecting with each other, and how we're
yeah.
not from here. We've connected before in previous lifetimes somewhere else.
Mhm,
So
absolutely.
I have a feeling very strongly that that we'll probably do more than one of these interviews.
I would love to, for sure.
So I'm gonna ask what you would prefer. Do you want me to ask questions, or would you like to do a light language channeling? What would you
I'm
like?
I'm I'm very flexible with anything. I'm very freestyle. I just want to mention this. This chief comes in as a guide now for me since he passed in 2021, and sometimes I can feel him like sitting right next to me, except he's bilocating with both of us. And he's had a much bigger mission, I think, than people really understood. And all the stuff he was doing on that he didn't talk a lot about. And I'm actually writing a book about my experience and the teachings that and the dialogue that we had and some things that were developed. But anyway, so he was bringing all these people together, and he used to tell me, I'm feeling him here too, and he used to tell me that he said everybody's been so many different things. You know, he told me for sure Lakota. I'm actually, what people don't know is I'm Native American. I have that in my background, even though I look the way that I look. So I think it's kind of funny when people think I'm the blonde lady from the city, So it's just interesting. But what I'm also finding is that we're all getting back together and we're combining our gifts. And I think what I've found with clients, with friends, with people that resonate with my work, they'll say there's something in it, that there's a connection. I work with the divine feminine and people will connect with that. I'm connected with Sasquatch. I mean, all these different kinds of guides. Arcturian, I was shown at a very early age, I am Arcturian in the physical form, but it's less, I'm not a walk-in. It's like the soul came into the body fully, and I can share about that later. So I'm experiencing the world as an Arcturian in a human body. That's why I did so many things. But part of my mission is to reach a wide, diverse audience. And I think I've done all these things, been all these places, all these people. It's really making sense now as I'm writing this book. And so I just want to say, I think what's happening is we're connecting. I feel the same connection with you. I know you. It's just an ancient friend, that kind of thing. I mean, it's very heartfelt. And I think what I'm finding is during these times, people are really looking for authentic connection. I mean, I feel that from you. I mean, I really vibrate to people who are in their heart, who are really kind people that are being of service in some way, or creating or expressing or something. So I think we're all, finding each other, and our higher self and our galactic self and all the guides are bringing us together to do something new. So I would like to say something in light language for you and anybody that listens to this at any time. It's still the same energy field. Like I'm tapping into that, but this is the best way I can express some of these high vibrational thought forms, frequency. Like a lot comes through. It's not just the language. So if I could do that, that's fine. And then let's just do whatever questions you want. That'd be great.
Yeah,
So,
please go ahead.
okay. And you can keep your eyes open. Like I said, I don't channel. I'm maybe what they call a clear channel, but I'm transmitting. This is just me tapping into. There's a dragon energy. There's a Sasquatch energy here. There's Chief, a couple other ancient grandmothers, Lemurian. I mean, they're all around in all our field, but they come in to kind of speak together with me. So anyway, I just wanted to explain where that comes from. So I'll just
Thank
say
you.
a message and then we'll take it from there.
Thank you, Shakara. And are you connected? I'm assuming you are connected to the Pleiadians, like you have to be.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, a lot of different star family. Not my direct connection, but I work, I think I probably was in some lifetime. It's been many, many lifetimes, but yeah, definitely a deep connection. But I think for me more Arcturian, Tau Ceti, Orion, Syrian, you know, there's kind of the whole band. So anyway, so yeah, the Pleiadian aspect in you is also what's resonating. I think I'll just mention something is I believe especially with what happened in Mu and Lemuria, that was very much Pleiadian and also Arcturian. So there was a lot of activity going on there. So I think that's one of the places I know you, but we've probably, you know, met as Sisterhood of the Rose, the Priestess Templars, the Isis priestesses. I mean, all these different groups along the line. And so that's what's really interesting. We're just finding each other. But I want to share this message. There's a lot of, you know, as I'm sure you would feel, there's a pressure coming through. And if I talk really fast, it's this energy from these guides. And I'm trying to temper it because it's so strong right now. It's beams of light I can feel. And I see behind you too, there's this incredible aura. So anyway, I might get a little giddy, maybe move around a little bit because it's a real intense energy. So, but it's beautiful. So, okay, I'll just share a little message. Excuse me. Shukutu singere wasane. Isamano wala kainen no washante to do a shingere wasane no washambo la kine. Isakainin no washambo to la kainen no washante isuka to shkine. Budueshana. Mo so to shkine no wasante bu la kainen no washambo to skite to washine. Ana no la kainen no washambo to sko to shinge. Did wala kainen mosha to skinin no washambo to la kinin no washaku to skit at to shime. Ano ko to skinin no washambo la kainen no washanko to skit. It do shan no mola mo so to skinin no washambo to la kinin no washanke. Isaka no shu ko to singir wasanen no washamo to la kinin no washanko. Anti su la kainen no washamo to skinin no washanko to la kinin no washanko do asaka. Isa o su ko to skinin no washampo. Ula kaitainen no washante. Ine so sita kono la manu no washange isikatushi mo su ko to shine.
Wow. Wow. Um, I I don't know what to say. Just wow. Um, that was something else. That was beautiful. And as you were doing that, I was seeing images and um of different things. Um, And I was also getting a personal message as well.
Mhm.
And there was, for me, there was a Chinese feel or a guide or something very Chinese there. And I think it was a lady. I could be wrong, but I felt a Chinese lady,
Mhm.
or a Chinese energy there. Um, and that was beautiful. That was just heartfelt, really heartfelt. Um,
There were many vibrations that were coming through. So what happens is when I speak this, I just want to share, for people that are experiencing it on the other side. I'm totally conscious, but I can feel the guides almost like blending with me and talking together with me, like we're standing next to each other. And I definitely felt there were some messages directly for you. There was some for people, that will hear this now or later. There were other teachings, guidance, information about how to. I mean, there was DNA restructuring going on, so it's very quantum because there's a energetic transmission. So when you're seeing these images, what I'm finding even more for me and the people who are receiving this, like when I do this with clients or a group or whatever, they're seeing images, there's pictures that are being holographic mind speak,
yeah.
and vibrations. And while I'm doing this, I'm seeing almost like a painting, like some of my art that I try to explain. It comes through in a vibration, but it's all these different layers. So I'm getting pictures, holograms, information, uh, and it's all coming through like simultaneously. And then I'm right now, even in my mind, I'm unpacking, oh, that's what that means or whatever. So part of it is an instruction for me because I'm totally guided by spirit and the star people now, like what I'm supposed to say, when it's appropriate, who it's for, is it healing, is it vibrational? So some of that was just a transference of energy. There was a very ancient grandmother in there, like Japanese, Chinese, something like that, that's related to a star lineage. There was a Lemurian energy, there was a dragon energy. I was feeling the chief kind of talking through me energetically. So yeah, it was a combination of many things.
Um, so I've so many questions for you. I don't know where to start, but I would love to do this again.
Do sure,
Um,
yeah. I love talking with people. So sure.
so, um, so one of my questions is, like, when did this start for you? Going back, like in your life, were you awake as a child? Were you doing this as a child? Has it been a gradual process, or did you suddenly one day just wake up?
So it's a combination of things. I think I was born this way consciously. My older sister, who's 16 years older than me, would tell me she would come home and watch me do things. My mom was very hands-off artist, and I got a teepee from my aunt when she had traveled and lived for a while in New Mexico, and she came back, and I at 3, I was going inside that teepee and doing these rituals. I remember at one point putting my hand like this and seeing energy. I was doing things with energy. I was making, salves to heal the trees with mud pies. I was very much a very different kid, very loner. And, I liked people, but I was very shy. I didn't talk a lot, but I had a lot of physical energy. I would climb trees and, all this stuff. And so I was doing this all my life, real early on. Um, a woman who's very connected with the Arcturian energy did a read on me, and she said I had like chemical pneumonia when I was a child. So like between six months and 12 months, I was by myself in a hospital. And I was a healthy baby, but it was induced by somebody that was trying to give me some medication or something. Um, And the woman said when I was in the hospital, the read she got was that that's when the Arcturians would come and work with me, and they'd come visit me while I was in the incubator, or the, the what's called the isolation tank, whatever, the air tank. And then I had grand mal seizures when I was 7, between 4 and 7, about 5 or 6, where I'd pass out, black out, big ones, and hit my head and everything. And this chief would say, a lot of people that are psychic hit their head. He was talking about Edgar Casey, and and I had a huge bump to my head, but I think this was going on all my life. So two of the things that are really significant for me is I would see star people. They would come in my room when I was little, especially on a full moon, which is really interesting at certain times. And I would see them, like the movies, little people, little blue people, but they look more like kids. Like somehow and it wasn't, I was thinking, oh, these are my imaginary friends. They were not, because it was also physical. So they would shapeshift, and they'd literally walk in my room, go around my bed. I don't know, there was like 3 to 10 maybe. And sometimes they would shapeshift into, like, I used to collect stuffed animals as a kid, and they would move on my bed, kind of move or dance, or it was almost like the spirits of the star people came in, I think, to get these telepathic messages. And then I had a very profound experience when I was about 3.5, where I still remember I was very conscious of myself at that age. And I remember playing with my friend who lived across the street, and I went out by myself in the front yard, and I was instructed. I was hearing voices, which I found out later, I think, are star people, my family. And I was instructed to lie down on the grass and put my hands like this. And all of a sudden I'm looking at my hands, and there's light going back and forth between my hands. And I'm thinking in my little brain, I'm making this up, and I'm watching this energy transform. And then psychically I could see it go around. So I'm lying on the ground, like around my body into the earth, like this. And then I felt like a huge beam of light, if I'm lying this way, like coming up, which ended up being like some kind of a guide or an angel or a star person. I think it's the one that I work with the most. And I heard inside my head, in your 20s and 30s, your life's going to be really, really challenging. In your 40s and 50s, you will know who you are. You'll know your mission, and we will come and connect around that time. So go play and forget any of this happened. Except I didn't forget. And I remember standing up and not knowing how to function as a child, like how to move my body. I was clumsy. It was very weird because I was so, athletic. And then that progressed. And so little by little, we'd go to a place in the country, in the forest, and I would go off and play by myself, and I would see and hear and talk to Sasquatch, who I believe is also star people. Many times I have many experiences, but these star people would come in and out. A lot of times I'd look up at the sky and I could see ships, very tangible, and couldn't understand why nobody else saw them. Many times, maybe about, 6 or 7 times in my life, I've seen a huge crafts hovering over me, or I felt beams of energy or something, but I feel like it's around all the time. Sometimes when I go out in certain places, I just say a prayer and talk to the star people, and this whole circle opens up in the clouds. This happened many, many times, and I feel that's a ship kind of descending and balancing. So anyway, this has happened all my life, and my mom, as an artist, just said, well, why don't you paint it? So I started doing symbols and codes, and it came in like scribble and then really distinct things, and they almost look like Egyptian hieroglyphs and scripts. I kept a book that I called at age 9. I mean, I was doing lots of big projects when I was little. Started my own business and like kind of crazy, kind of advanced stuff, I think, for the time, looking back at it. But I kept this journal of what I found out later to be, star language. And I would write and write and write.
And do
Anyway,
you
fast
still
forward.
have that? Do you
Eh?
still have that? Did you keep them?
A couple,
Yeah.
very little, because at the time I was like, oh, this is kind of silly. I do have a couple photographs documenting for me just to remember that I had those. But yeah, when I started working with patterns and codes and symbols, and then, like I told you, I went to art school, and I was really, even in high school and college, I was always interested in multimedia and things that dealt with sound and vision and form and dance and mudras and everything. So I was just picking it all up. And anyway, through this whole time, the star people kept coming. They come in, they give me a message. They come in, I would see a form. I could see many times just an orb. I'd be in a room and I just watched this orb that was about this big just kind of float around. Often I see these gold dots of light. Sometimes I see them on my hand. Sometimes when I'm writing on my pen, like the tip, and sometimes they'll just go like bing, like, just out of the blue. Sometimes I can look at them and go in other dimensions. So this is what started getting really weird for me, fascinating, was I started having all of these higher sensory perceptions. I started being able to look at something and literally scry the energy and go back and forth in time. I could hold objects all this stuff was happening to me. But I think it's something that I carried with me. And then I was stimulated. I was being taught every single day. I'm clearly, my friend jokes that I've downloaded the Cosmic Encyclopedia. And it's crazy because I'm not a writer. I mean, how does this come for any of us? But I heard you can't do anything but this work. So, last couple of years, I got so stripped of everything to start fresh. Anyway, when somebody mentioned light language, this is when Mary Rodwell, I know we have a known connection there. She was just starting to talk about this. And before light language was even really well known, somebody said, I think you speak light language, went to her site, saw all these people speaking, drawing, whatever. I was like crying tears of joy because I'm like, they're my people, they do what I do, but I could look at the codes and understand them. It's like I was reading. It's like, oh, I could hear all these, and I could hear the languages in the art.
Well,
And
I have a question for you there, Shakara. So sometimes when I look at sometimes when I look at the UFO crop circles,
yeah,
I can see what they mean. Do you get that as well? Like
yeah.
with yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so that comes in with any image. So I'm obviously interpreting, which everybody does, but I can feel a vibration and something in my mind goes, it's almost like I tell people I'm walking two worlds. Like right now we're talking, but I'm seeing pictures and visions and some other dimension. Like it's all forming in different ways right now, all the time for me, all the time. And so I'll look at a crop circle and I'll see the picture and my brain literally will take it out of my head and move it around like a sci-fi movie, like a, multidimensional, because I see everything multidimensionally. And then sometimes if there's a picture, I'll put my hand over it because I can read the energy with my hand. I mean, it happens lots of different ways for me. Sometimes I'll hear in my head or a star person outside saying, okay, this is this imprint. It is doing this to the earth. Like I can see inside what's going on in the, why that imprint was, implanted there, or where it's coming from the earth, or so there's a healing thing going on. So for me, the light language equals many different ways of experiencing the world and reading the signs and the codes. So yeah, for sure, there's a lot of really interesting information that comes in about these crop circles, through them. So there's a vibrational thing that happens. There's a retuning of the earth. I mean, there's a lot of things that are happening, with each one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there seems to be so much information that we're given as either channelers or people that transmissions,
Yeah.
downloads.
Yeah.
One of my questions is, you were talking about the whales earlier and the stones.
Yeah.
Where is that?
The whales and the stones.
Yeah, you were talking about the stones somewhere in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we did a ceremony out at what's called Giant Rock out in the desert. And I can never say the word right. There's a place called the Integnitron, something like that, where there's a story that a man, I don't know, in the 50s, something like that, I think, had an experience where he saw a ship and then he lived there. But these are very, very huge boulders. One is cracked, but I believe them to be basically petrified whales. So that's somewhere outside of Laguna, maybe San Diego, LA, somewhere around there. I mean, we were driving out there, so that's where
Yeah.
that was.
Yeah, I've started to see some and become more aware of large petrified remains of trees and
Oh,
animals
oh
and
yeah.
yeah.
That's one of the things that I've been very much on that topic, which we can talk about at some point. The ancient couple things. So I did a vision quest ceremony at it's called the Devil's Tower, which we called the grandmother tree. And it's like the avatar tree. And I remember, and I was with this chief and I said, that's a tree. When I was looking at a picture, and he goes, yeah, yeah, and very nonchalant. And then we did a ceremony there and I was getting all these messages, like other people that were there also, about where the tree was. I was seeing one ancient tree on 13 continents. So there were actually 13, not just the 7 as they started dividing. Huge. Some of these are trees, much bigger than the petrified forest. When you look at things that maybe look like volcanoes or whatever, I mean, I can see it. It's like I can see in a past timeline what it was. And so there's that, but there's also, I've been watching this guy that has a show, I think it's called Mud Fossil University, where he understands the human body, and he will show like a human petrified body part and then show how it's mapped to the earth. And you really start to see that the theory that I believe he's proving, and I have always kind of felt that certain land masses, for example, mounds, whatever, could have been ancient giants, ancient beings, much bigger than us. So there's the trees, but then I'm looking at all these pictures of petrified elephants that are huge. I mean, huge, mushrooms and everything. So I think there was what they call Tartaria, even before that, even before Lemuria, probably, and after. Very ancient beings that walk the earth, and I consider them all star people. But anyway, so yeah.
And so thank you for sharing that. So one of my other questions is, how do you personally, how do you balance, because the times we're in now, we've really progressed very rapidly since 2019. So how do you balance the energies now with the 3D? How do you balance the higher and the 3D, on a daily basis,
Yeah, so I'm a pretty practical person, surprisingly. When people look at my work, like I actually was talking with Mary and I was showing her, kind of gave her my story and showed her my artwork and the speaking languages, and she's like, wow, that's a lot. Like, it's a lot for 3D people. And I said, well, actually, there's part of me, the simple. I live very simply right now. So, you know, what is interesting is I'm now starting to talk about me and my journey. I have a book about all these things that happen, but also like I've worked in 25 different industries. I mean, I was clearly prepped to do whatever I'm doing right now. And lived off grid. I was on, deep in Chicago and New York and all, traveling and all this stuff. And all these aspects of me are coming back together, but I always felt fragmented. I always felt weird, different, ostracized. I was bullied often all my entire life because I had some energy that agitated people, or they loved it or they hated it. People wanted to touch me or they couldn't be around me. It was a really, really interesting dynamic for me. I just didn't understand it. And I was very quiet. Or when the star people came, then I got really chatty. So, sometimes it's very hard to tone down. But anyway, so I lived a very 3D life, especially in New York City for 35 years. I have a daughter who's in her mid-20s, and the way that I kept grounded through all of this was always to go out in nature. I would always take walks. I would talk to my food and water. I would touch plants. I'm always the natural energy that comes from nature and natural forms were really important. I always had to go to the beach or swim or whatever. So that kept me grounded. And I think I was interested in pop culture and everything. So I think my daughter was a huge grounding factor for me, because she like me speaks the language, whatever you want to call it, the higher languages, but she's also really funny, has an amazing voice. And so whenever I'm around her, I'm very goofy. People don't know this about my personality. I'm just goofy. And so what I'm saying is I kind of shapeshift through all these roles. And what's ironic is, as I'm getting this download, all like massive information, pictures, all this stuff, like I said, for the last 10 years, I've been traveling. So I left my house to my daughter to take over for a little while, and then she moved somewhere else. And so for 10 years, I have not lived in my own house. I mean, I did actually for about a year recently, but the point is I've been traveling. I stayed at probably 30, 40 people's places. I'm moving in and out of all these dynamics, people's homes, people's energy, what's going on in the different locations. I can feel the land. So everywhere I go, I have to go out, and then I get my downloads. I always wake up in the morning at like 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4. It's an assignment. I wake up, I do the work, I just zone out. I have to I watch children's animation movies to just kind of gel out. But I think what's happened, what I'm noticing that I just put in this book I'm writing about my experience, is the more I moved around, the more I changed, I had to find something consistent, in and out of people, places, energy, dynamics. I'll walk in a kitchen and I have to rearrange my mind over and over again. Where am I? Who am I with? What's the message for today? And it was an incredible training about how to be completely in the moment, in the flow. So I have learned right now, I could be like, totally concrete, totally human. And then, all these higher things are happening, but then I can go out and have a really sacred experience or like a mystical thing. And then I just shift and I get in the car and I do something else. So it's important for me to, on one hand, be very connected with humans. I was going to say human people. It's challenging. And do really domestic stuff. I love to go out for a bite to eat, see friends, have a drink. That's what keeps me grounded. But all this other stuff is so normal to me right now. I really question if somebody's body could really handle what the energy that comes through. But I'm getting really used to it. Like, yeah, there it is. Okay, there's the message.
Yeah.
And they come when these information pieces come, they're in like these huge, it's like a whole computer chip, you know,
Yeah.
and I don't know what to do with it. And then I work through it out. So the normal part, when I'm walking through town, I'll go window shopping just to kind of get in a zone. And that's actually when I do my best work, or I'll go out and be in nature or whatever. So it's a combination of literally walking both worlds to the point where I'm doing it almost simultaneously. And if I have to shift it, it's not that big of a deal now.
Yeah, I totally understand.
Yeah.
So I've a couple of other questions for you. So with Chief Golden Light Eagle, maybe we could save that till next time because I think there's so much there. Maybe we could just do
There's a lot.
an interview just around him. And
Sure. I'd love to.
I feel him so strongly this evening. I know he's here.
Yeah, he
So
is.
yeah, maybe if you could send me an email with some free dates, we can schedule that in.
Sure.
So like as you're talking, it feels to me very much like, and I guess I knew this already, but it's becoming very clear to me that you're here with a purpose, with a mission to whatever that is. And I kind of know what it is, but like, have they shown you what that is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very in infinite detail.
Oh,
So I would always ask, what the heck is going on? Why me? Why am I getting all this? What is the job? Sometimes I didn't understand it all, and I'll go in and out of that through the last couple of years. And then it became very clear. They come in with very specific instructions. So part of what I wrote that I'm publishing in this book is not only how the downloads happened and that whole process of writing what I call the big book. This is like all my work, the whole body of my work. But they showed me in many different ways, many different lines about how I work, the techniques, the processes, how I uniquely function. We could talk about this later, but there's a Arcturian ship that I go up and down. I basically visit all the time, and I think I'm bilocating there now, where I go and I'm learning things, and I'm also teaching things. So it's almost like I'm doing field work here, back up there, and they say it's my ship, which sounds crazy. I'm very cautious or sensitive not to sound egocentric, but it's like there's some big stuff happening. These when the white buffalo calf woman or the Jesus Emmanuel's sister comes in, and it's like, who am I to you? What are we doing? So I've gotten a lot of information about that. But in terms of my role, when I'm shown through all this work, I did not understand this until I hashed through all, like literally 26. I have 100, 200, 300 books. It's unbelievable. But they showed me over and over again that one of the roles is I'm here as a representative, or what they say, ambassador for the Arcturians, to prepare people through this work for this shift that's coming. That's one of many roles. The other is, as the star people come into form, they're going to utilize my presence as a kind of like a welcome wagon, like people will start to see star people around me. Like I will hold a vibration where the star people can meet and come in, and humans can see them without being scared.
like a spokesperson.
Yeah, like a spokesperson. Yeah. But at some point then I what's happening to me, which is really weird, is I'm shifting into my star self more and more and more. Sometimes I'll look in the mirror and I look Arcturian. I mean, I can shapeshift my face with just by talking. My eyes change color when my daughter was like, "Do you realize your eyes are changing to blue as we're talking?" So there's a lot of this going on with me. But I think the biggest role is, I mean, it's so many things. It's to really help people understand, what's going on in this ascension time that I believe is just endless. It's happened. We're just evolving like every planet. So why it's happening, helping people prepare for getting their bodies, mind, soul, spirit, in tandem with these energies, releasing negativity, fear, whatever, so that they can make this it's the transition. But I really think, somebody asked me, like, who's your audience? And I said, well, I can talk to anybody. I love children, star children especially. That's one of the groups that I work with, but also the elders and people that are awakening, and then people that are like doing quantum mechanics in their head. It's a wide range, and somehow I'm supposed to bring those people together. And I'm also sort of a point person to bring them together to create something new. Imagine a star kid being a teacher talking about crystalline, matrix mandalas, and then a musician happening. And then, it's very multicultural, multidimensional, the work that I do. And I also feel like I personally am learning, they're teaching me concepts of higher sensory things, not just telepathy and psychic stuff. It's like how to talk to plants, like literally in a plant language, how, when the sun photonics come in, really what's going on. Like even now, the sun just came in and I'm getting a lesson over here about the beams of light and how it's refracting here. Like basically how everything is connected. I mean, it sounds huge, but it's extremely simple, and helping people become like ascended masters, all of us, how to create a flower from your hand. Like we are moving into this time of creating. So it's a preparation for the new world, but I've already seen possibilities of how the human template is evolving, how we're working together, total change in society. So I'm here to kind of prep and get people ready for that. But while they're here, explore consciousness, reality, physicality in very new and, very creative, artsy, different ways.
Yeah, it's just a whole new earth, isn't it? It's a whole new
It
energy.
is. It is. It's completely different. Completely different.
So different to what we've been like. I remember when I was growing up in the 80s in London, in a poverty-stricken area, how um the things we were taught, or from the school system, how it's so different to like the world is not what we were shown back when we were
Absolutely.
growing up. And I know time's getting on, and I've so many questions for you, and I love your energy. I feel such a strong resonance, and there's several things there that there's and not just Chief Golden Light Eagle, but there's many connections there. It just like it's so lovely, because I'm very um yeah. So
It's the theme of the book when I first wrote the big book is
yes, that
remember
was
who
one of
you
my
are.
questions I was going to ask you. Would you talk about your books and your work and the work that you're doing now? How are- how do you um what are your services like? How do you show up in the world? I know you've said um
Mhm. I can speak to that. So the book, when I wrote it, the message I got was remember who you are. And it really is an awakening of all this stuff. So I tell people when they're experiencing something new or attracted to something new, it's really a remembering of putting these pieces back together of something they've done or who they've been or where they're going. The point is, past, present, and future is all existing right now. We're just having a differentiation. You know, you're over there and I'm here, but we're not. We're the same people. You're dreaming me, I'm dreaming you. We're talking in language and thoughts and everything. So it's all kind of happening at once. So the thing is, I mean, I grew up in a very normal small town. My sisters were in New York. That's why I went out there. But you know, the way I was educated until I went to a more of a special school was very base, very minimal. And I tell people right now, especially what's going on in the world right now, pretty much everything that we've learned is backwards. Language has been distorted. History, religion, science, politics, all the stuff is turned around. So a lot of times I'll look at something and almost like have to flip it over. You know, this is not really, you know, what we're seeing come up in the world in all these different fields right now is the great awakening. So it's less about the reset, it's about the veil opening. So this is part of, you know, consciousness opening and evolving. People have to see what's going on, but those were programs. You know, I'll use the word matrix, but I don't think of it in the same way as the movie. But they were a trial. They were a game. They were, you know, things that we had to explore. People in power wanted to play out these things, and now we're shifting. I think it's a huge positive thing that we're moving into. But anyway, so all my books, you know, people can go to my website, which is just myname.com. The books, I have one available right now that I'm in the process of self-publishing. There are 13 total books on all these topics: creativity, light language, cosmic, natural, star nations, this, that. And then there are 13 other books of each of these groups of guides: Arcturian, the divine feminine, mystic, animals, beings, animal nations, et cetera, et cetera. All these guides that came to me, some ascended masters, and their messages, who they were, what they showed me, each one had different principles. Those are just those books. I have a whole series, probably 6 or 7 different series that are already written. I'm just packaging them right now and doing a final read through of all these messages. So when I get the messages, they come in like poetry. So I have hundreds of pages on all these topics from all these guides. So right now I do one-on-one sessions with people. So if you look at my website now, it's very generic. You know, people can ask me questions. I always do light language. I always do an activation. I always am scrying and reading people's energy. If they have questions about the guides, I'm feeling it all and seeing it all. And then it'll be like just a casual conversation like this, and I'll sprinkle the light language. So I do those sessions. What's happening now is I'm making them very specific. So if you want a healing, if you want an activation, if you want to practice your light language, if you want to do a deeper study on one of the topics from my book, I'm rolling that out, literally just finishing it today. So this is good timing. And those will turn into webinars, classes, you know, meditation, audio. I have the material. And now I'm going to start teaching it in a very big way, to the point where I was shown that I will set up a retreat center in partnership with many other people, and an institute to teach this in new ways, but it will be collaborative. So right now I do sessions, and also you mentioned the art. So I draw people's soul portraits. I can feel them. It's always better. It's not better. It's a little more enhanced if I do a session and then the soul portrait. I offer that as a package, but I feel what I call their energy frequency signature, and bring that in. The other kind of art is this light language codes that are almost like scribing messages back to you. I can do commissioned art and, you know, a lot of different things, but a lot of other products, like I'm doing oracle cards. I'm starting to roll out. now. I have that available too, like a 13 deck of 13, everything is 13. So anyway, products and services, but it's really to get these messages and tools out to people that they could really start using. So I perform this stuff. I do events, I do public speaking, I do ceremony. I mean, it's a quite a massive list of services that I'm offering. I can do it online, in person, whatever. And that's basically what I'm stepping into now.
That
So
is
I
good.
know it's a lot. I know it's a lot of information.
That's amazing, the work you're doing. Um, and some of it is similar to what I'm doing, but you seem to have a much more energy than I do. You've got, yeah.
I'm almost 60.
Really? Wow. You don't look
Yeah,
Shakara.
thank you. You either. Whatever that age may be, I think it's all relevant. I think I was born to do this work, and when I do the light language and the work, it gives me so much energy. People say, like, I'll do a 3-hour session with a client, be like, aren't you tired? And I'm like, no, I love it. It's light
Invigorating.
energy. It's light energy. I'm working with light. So
Yeah. And
yeah.
yeah, I always feel like that as well after any type of channeling or work or transmission, anything spiritual. I always feel I have so much energy afterwards.
Yeah.
So your books,
Mhm.
where can people find them? Are they on your website? Are they on Amazon? Who have
Yeah.
you?
So right now, like I said, it's really because I've been deep in this off-grid work that I'm doing. I've been very quiet. Like I was on the circuit, and in the last couple of months, I'm living very minimally, working very intensively. So on my website, which is shakaratosha.com, I'm right now selling the PDF version. You can get a digital version now of my first book called Ascension Now, Becoming the New You, which basically goes through what I've been shown are various stages of what all of us are experiencing, the tools, the symptoms, how to manage it, and really where we're going, a little bit about star people, the future, a lot of things. That one is available now. I'm in the process of self-publishing to get a handful of books out to people, and then I'm also putting it on Amazon, Kindle, paperback, etc. All these other books, probably in the next couple of days, I'm gonna put them up there to pre-order. And as soon as I get them done, and they could happen in a week to a month, I could get literally all those books up. Then I'll just put them on Amazon. So eventually everything will be on Amazon. But right now, I have that one book, and other things are coming very, very fast. All the books about the guides and the topics.
Wow.
So,
And so if there's one message for people listening and watching and the audience in the future,
mm,
what is what would be your one message
mm,
for
for the
today?
for today. Okay. So Shukutu singing was Sanin and Washante. Sama Luo Katainin and Washamotuski, Tetatuashine. Sama no Loko to a shing, was Sanin and Washambo to a skin. Always stay in your heart. Trust yourself. Don't worry, because what may be feeling like is falling apart is new growth. We are going somewhere very profound, and it's very beautiful. And be kind. Love the water, love nature, take care of each other. We have each other, and support each other. So it's a beautiful time to be alive. Beautiful time to be alive.
Um,
I love you.
I love you too. there's so much healing that comes through when you do that. I really, it's off the scale for me. I really feel it very deeply, and I'm on the verge of tears here. And as you were doing the transmissions or the light language just now, I was seeing an image of um, a woman, and I was getting a sense, a very strong sense of mother energy, very nurturing, very galactic. And I was seeing an image of the earth and her standing on the earth, and then an image of the night sky and her looking up, and just very, very, very motherly, protective, nurturing. Um, and she looked quite small to me, and she had dark skin, um, like um,
Mhm.
either Native American or perhaps a little bit darker even. Um,
I'm laughing because my daughter is mixed. She's half Trinidadian, which
okay,
is funny.
okay.
And when you said that, it made me think of her. This grandmother, I bring in this very ancient, I say Lemurian, but she shows me that she's like one of the original elders. And Chief and I talked about this and my work and who I am, that I carry that energy in my frequency. And when I speak these languages, it's like it's so familiar. Most of the time people say I feel like a grandmother wrapping around me, like it's ancient love. I think that's the energy I've been shown that I work with. Like I'm calling in what I call the creatress. There's many levels to this we can talk about later, but I believe I'm also associated with her. When I met the chief, he gave me this book called the Talmud of Emmanuel, and he said, read everything about creation in here that they talk about. I mean, talk about that later. But it's a Billy Meyer, right? He worked with the Pleiadians, right? And he said, read this Talmud of Emmanuel. So he and I referred to Jesus as Emmanuel. And he said, read everything about creation and what Emmanuel said about creation because you had something to do with it. And I didn't understand, and now I do understand. You know, I think this light energy, this being that comes through is not just one being, but there is this very ancient grandmother. I can feel it too. And that's the one that I'm working with most. I have many names for that energy. It's almost like the divine feminine that shifts with the one of many names. And I think each of us, you know, people that have embodied the feminine archetype, like you and I, but I think male or female, it's the feminine energy, is what's coming back together. The you know, the creative. I'm a fierce supporter and protector of women and children. Very important, you know, whatever your sexuality, your identification, doesn't matter to me. But you know, it's less about people that are vulnerable. It's the creative seed. It's the creative process. And anyway, this energy that comes through is like an original elder grandmother. It's really hard to explain. I feel it too, and that's one of the guides that comes to me. So,
Oh,
yeah.
thank you so much for today. Um, is there anything else you'd like to say before we
Yeah,
before we
I think two things that came to mind, and again, I'm whatever's coming through. I'm supposed to say. I want to say, everybody has a gift, and everyone has a voice, and everyone is here on purpose. You know, your higher self brought you here, made an arrangement or whatever, but you know, there's a reason why we're here. When times get hard, because I have been through incredibly challenging times, always know that it will not only get better, but it has a really important purpose. And if you learn from the lesson, it makes sense, and then you'll apply it in something else in your life. But you're okay as you are. And I think when this grandmother comes in, it's like everything's fine, sweetheart. You know, you're doing great. I think we question ourselves all the time. And I think that it's important to know that you're fine, however you're showing up with the world. And I think that's also what self-empowerment and self-expression is so important to me. I think because I was quiet for so long, but also feeling good about yourself, it's important to love yourself. That's who you are. This is what you're given to work with. And the other thing is, I just really want to honor you because, you know, reaching out to me is one thing and we're having this dynamic, but I really want to have a dialogue with you about your experience because we learn from each other all the time. I think there's a lot of parallel tandem things that we've experienced. You know, we'll probably do some work together or maybe speaking together or something like that. You know, that's kind of what many things I see. But you have such a kind heart, and that shows me when we're connecting that I'm doing okay. You know, if I see you reflecting there, you know, I'm all right. I'm all right. So get out in the sun and enjoy the day. That's the biggest thing I would say.
Thank you so much, Sakara. Sorry, Shakara.
That's okay.
Um,
That's do you how do you pronounce your name?
it's
Soma ARah?
Soma ARah.
ARah. Okay, got it.
Soma
Yeah,
ARah.
Soma ARah.
It was, I'll
Beautiful.
just mention quickly before we go
Yeah.
how it was given to me. So, COVID had kicked off in the UK, which is where I was at the time, and I had quite a lot of anxiety around it, and I hadn't channeled the Pleiadians for quite a while, like maybe 2 years. And I had a lot of anxiety around what was going on, and it took me off guard, really. So I had this beautiful, beautiful communal garden, very large. And so I went into the garden and I meditated and connected with a tree. And I had my arms around the tree and was meditating. And I heard the name Soma.
Mm.
Um, so I was given the name Soma by the tree. And around the same time, I got a load of downloads to do with what was going on, and just like a whole book of downloads, of transmissions. And then I went upstairs, you know, around the time I was given a lot of transmissions. Um, and then I went upstairs after I was given the name Soma, and I didn't know what it meant. And I was Googling what it meant, and it means in India, which I believe is an accurate description of what they were saying. The translation means is a sacred drink or elixir.
Mhm.
And then as I was Googling that, I got the name Ara,
Mhm.
which means to, and then I Googled that, and it was my guides that gave me that. Which means to arise. So it's like a sacred elixir that means to arise. And there's also a feeling there of Egypt with the name Ara.
Absolutely.
There's an
Yes.
Egyptian.
Yeah, me too. Shakara Tosha. So one of the things that I mean, we can continue this next time, but that one of the things that my guides was showing me is that it's a vibration. It's almost like a frequency of energy. So sometimes I'll say Shakara Tosha, or I in my head. I mean, it sounds funny, but Shakara Tosha. It's like a chant, very Egyptian. I had a couple friends in Egypt that I'm connecting with to do some tour. Like I'm hosting tours there, and he said, I recognize you immediately because of your name. It has an Egyptian vibration, not just the Ra. Ka is the body, Shakara. So, like with you, Soma, Ara, dun 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 dun. This is also how we're connected, but there's a frequency in the combination. So, literally, most of the stuff I talk about is what I call the codes of creation. So, my symbols are codes, stuff I make, but there's codes of creation in everything that make up everything. And it's all phonics, like Egyptian, unta, kala, kusi, mita, so Shakara Tosha. There's a energy frequency that does stuff. I mean, in and of itself. And the same with you, Soma ARah, Soma ARah, Soma ARah. It's not just words and letters. I mean, I can hear it shapes a vibration that represents you. So I could go on forever, but when we get these names, just like this is what Chief, because I call him Eagle, Lauren Eagle. Eagle used to tell me he had like 6 or 7 spirit names, and every time he got one, some were given by other chiefs, some were given by animal nations or star people or whatever. You change your frequency. So I have no problem with my birth name, but people say it and I don't even relate to it anymore because I'm like a completely different person, and maybe other names are coming. So anyway, I love your name. It's very lilty, but it has a very definitely Egyptian, but a very strong frequency. It's a vibration. So that's also why I recognize, oh, this is someone that I would love to talk with. So, but you're glowing. I mean, you're so beautiful and you have such a great energy. So I just really want to appreciate you just as a being. And I would love to talk about anything. And, I have a dialogue also about whatever you want. I'm really open. I mean, this is me for the first time in a long time talking to people. I'm do a couple interviews and I have client sessions and that kind of thing, but been very quiet now. I'm kind of coming out of my shell. It's going to be pretty big movement.
Yeah.
I joke with my daughter. I'm going from 0 to 5,000.
Yes.
So, having fun while I'm doing it. So, yeah.
It's been such a blessing and an honor to connect in with you this evening, really. And
let's do it again.
Yeah, let's do it again. So I just want to give a mention of your website again, which is Shakara Tosha .com.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And they can find your books and your book and your other books that are coming up, and your work, and you do sessions. And you also do, can you talk a little bit about we were speaking before the interview, where I would also like to get 2 of your services where you offer the light codes and the other one.
Yeah. So I do these, what I call soul portraits. Like I mentioned, I can do it after a session, or I can even intuit when a person, purchases that. And it's basically like I can feel their energetic frequency signature, their vibration, and they're all different. Sometimes they're in circles, sometimes you can see examples of them on my website, or even if you look at more information about those under the store, I think. And so I'm drawing people's frequency, and then I'll put codes in it, and then part of the package, because it's multidimensional, is I'll put my hand over the drawing and bring in a message, intuit a message from the person's guides that I work with and my guides. And I'll speak it and record it. And then I send that as a package. So when they look at it, they can print out the art, or, I also have a digital file that they can save on their phone. But if you look at it and listen to the light language, you activate it inside your own frequency. So that's what I call an energy frequency signature, or a soul portrait. And then the other thing I do is what I call just the light codes. So they're like informational codes. Again, they're artistic, gestures of certain codes. Sometimes there'll be symbols and codes with maybe some colors or something. So it's a little bit different, and it's like a message for the person. So just the code itself. But like I said, I'm rolling out all these other cards, codes, decks, affirmation, things. But I think if people really want to connect with me, the best, if they're interested in reading the writing, they could get the book, think it's, I don't know how much. I mean, it's not that expensive for the PDF right now, if you don't mind reading it on the screen, or you can print it out black and white, or do a session with me. So right now there's these generic sessions, but I'm going to be breaking them out shorter, longer, for specific things. And I think it'll really help people to hone in on one type of question or one thing that they're needing support with. And then, all the other stuff is coming. So, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you very much.
yeah, I very much look forward to doing this with you again, maybe over the next week or 2 or 3,
Sure.
whenever.
This is a really good time for me because I'm just finishing before I'm launching everything. So I'm available. Now is a good time. I'd love to talk about it. Anything you want.
So maybe next week we could book in.
Definitely. Yeah, reach out to me and we'll confirm.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for watching. And you can
Thank you
also,
so much.
yeah, thank you. And so people can also find me on Substack, Soma ARah. So thank you everyone, and peace out for now.